The road stretches out like a thin ribbon of asphalt cutting through darkness, the headlights carving out a narrow path in front of me. The night seems endless, pressing in around the car, broken only by the occasional tree, casting twisted shadows that flicker and vanish as I pass. My hands grip the steering wheel a little tighter than usual, aware of the solitude, the near absolute silence around me. Then, just up ahead, something catches my eye, a figure standing by the roadside. At first, I think it's a trick of the light, maybe a strange reflection, but as I draw closer, I see it's real. A figure, unmistakably a person, dressed in a clown costume. The painted face and bright colors clash violently with the dark, empty road, a bizarre, unsettling contrast that sends a chill down my spine. The clown is standing perfectly still, arms at its sides, just staring in the direction of my car. Its face is illuminated by the beam of my headlights, and even from this distance, I can make out the exaggerated features, a painted red mouth, stretched into a grin that seems unnatural, almost grotesque, and dark, hollow eyes that seem to absorb the light rather than reflect it. I feel an odd mixture of curiosity and dread, each one clawing at me from opposite directions. A sane part of me urges me to keep driving, to ignore whatever strange impulse made me slow down. Yet, a strange, almost magnetic pull draws my attention back to the figure. I try to convince myself that it's probably a prank or someone looking for help. Rationalizing it seems to dull the edge of fear, but not completely. As I edge closer, the silence around me thickens. It's as though the world outside has been muted, like the night itself is holding its breath. There's an eerie quality to the air, something heavy, pressing, and wrong. Even the occasional hum of the engine seems swallowed up by the vast, open emptiness. Despite my better judgment, I slow down and pull over to the side of the road, just a few feet from where the clown is standing. I roll down the window slightly, calling out, my voice shaky in the silence. There's no response. The clown remains motionless, its stare unwavering, fixed on me with an intensity that feels almost predatory. Taking a deep breath, I step out of the car, leaving the headlights on and the door open. Each step toward the figure feels like a battle, my legs heavy, resisting with every inch. But I push forward, driven by something I can't quite name, morbid curiosity, maybe, or a misplaced sense of bravery. As I draw close, the details of the clown's appearance begin to reveal themselves, and a sick feeling forms in the pit of my stomach. The costume is faded and worn, patches of mud and grime marring the bright colors. The red wig is tangled, with a few tufts of hair sticking out at angles, and the paint on its face is cracked, flaking in places, revealing pale skin underneath. But it's the eyes that strike me the hardest. They're not painted, as I'd assumed. They're real, sunken, dark, with an unsettling depth, as though they belong to someone far older, far more damaged than any person I ever seen. There's something off, something deeply wrong, but I can't put my finger on it. My breath catches in my throat as I realize that the mouth, too, isn't just painted, it seems to twist and stretch in a way that goes beyond makeup, as if. I swallow, my mouth suddenly dry as I stand there, just a few feet from the clown. Gathering what little courage I have, I force myself to speak, trying to keep my voice steady. Are you okay? I ask, my voice barely above a whisper. At first, there's only silence. Then, the clown's head tilts ever so slightly, and for the first time, it moves. A low, raspy voice slips out, as though each word is being dragged from a deep, dark place. Lost, looking, it mutters, its voice barely a whisper, almost like a breath against the cold night air. I can't quite tell if it's answering me or talking to itself. Its hollow eyes hold mine with an unsettling intensity, as if it's trying to peer directly into my soul. Looking for what? I ask, my voice wavering. My heart is pounding, a tight, erratic beat that fills the silence between us. I feel exposed under that stare, like my every thought is being laid bare. A small, twisted smile appears on its face, stretching that already wide grin to something unnatural, something that makes my stomach turn. For you, it says softly, its voice barely more than a murmur. My blood runs cold. I can feel my pulse hammering in my throat, but I don't move, rooted in place by a mixture of fear and fascination. Me? I don't understand. The words feel feeble, foolish, hanging in the air between us. Its gaze remains fixed, unblinking, and then it speaks again, its words cryptic and chilling. Not just me, the others. They're watching. Always watching. I glance around, instinctively, my eyes scanning the shadows beyond the road. The darkness seems to press in closer, thick and suffocating, and a strange sensation creeps up my spine, a prickling awareness that we aren't alone, that hidden eyes are watching from just beyond the edge of my sight. A dry branch cracks somewhere in the dark woods lining the road, the sound sharp and startling. I spin around, heart hammering, but there's nothing. Just trees, swaying slightly in a breeze I can't feel. Who are they? I ask, forcing myself to face the clown again. It hasn't moved, but its expression has changed, almost as if it finds my fear amusing. They see you. They know you more than you know yourself. The clown's voice is low, as if sharing a dark, intimate secret. They know where you go, where you hide, the things you keep secret even from yourself. The words claw at my nerves, each one an eerie, unsettling revelation. You're not making any sense, I manage, trying to keep the panic from my voice. How could you possibly know anything about me? A soft, hollow laugh escapes its lips, and the sound is more disturbing than the silence had been. Oh, we know. We know a lot. Like that scar behind your ear, the one from the fall when you were 8. My hand goes to the small, nearly invisible scar at the edge of my hairline. I hadn't thought about that in years. How could anyone know that? A chill creeps down my spine, and I instinctively take a step back. And your nightmares. It continues, its tone almost mocking. You still have them, don't you? The ones about the dark room, the ones that make you wake up in a cold sweat. My hands start to shake, and I clench my fists to keep them steady. I never told anyone about those dreams. How could this stranger, a clown, of all things, possibly know something so personal? Who are you? I whisper, unable to keep the fear out of my voice now. Every instinct screams for me to get back in the car, to drive as far from this place as possible. But I'm rooted to the spot, paralyzed by the feeling that any sudden movement might set something terrifying in motion. The clown's expression shifts, a strange, almost pitying look in its hollow eyes. Just a messenger, it says softly, as though speaking to a child. But they're closer than you think. I glance around again, heart hammering in my chest. The silence around us has thickened, punctuated now and then by soft, barely perceptible rustlings in the bushes and distant sounds, almost like whispering, carried on the still air. A sense of dread wraps around me, cold and suffocating. My skin prickles with the feeling of unseen eyes locked on me, watching from every shadow, every dark corner of the night. Who are they? I demand, my voice trembling. What do they want from me? The clown's mouth twists into that grotesque smile again, wider this time, revealing yellowed, jagged teeth. They're already here, it whispers, its voice thick with something that sounds almost like delight. And they've been waiting for you. They know you've been looking, even if you don't realize it yet. My head spins with fear and confusion, a sick feeling pooling in my stomach. Looking for what? I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you will, it murmurs, its voice soft and knowing. Soon, you'll know everything. Too late, of course, but that's how these things go. The rustling in the shadows grows louder, a faint chorus of whispers that seems to echo around me, as though the darkness itself is alive, breathing, watching. My heart races as I scan the road, the woods, but I see nothing, only darkness, shifting and stretching with every glance. The clown takes a step closer, and I can see something in its eyes, a flicker of satisfaction, or perhaps anticipation. You'll understand soon enough, it says, its voice like ice. But you should know, once you see them, once you hear them, there's no way back. I can feel myself shaking, my legs ready to collapse beneath me. The whispers are louder now, all around me, growing with an intensity that makes my head throb. The clown leans in closer, its cold breath brushing my ear as it whispers its final words, words that shatter any remnants of logic or safety I had left. They've already found you, it says softly, each word sinking like a stone in my stomach. And there's nothing you can do to stop them. My breath catches, a terrified gasp escaping my lips. I can feel a dozen unseen eyes locked on me, waiting, watching, hungry. The darkness seems to pulse with life, shifting as if something is ready to emerge, to step into the light. And that's why I realize this isn't just some strange encounter. This was planned. My hands tremble as I inch backward, heart racing, eyes darting to the darkness around me. The air feels heavier, pressing in on me from all sides, as if something unseen is closing in. I want to run, to escape the madness that's unfolding, but each step feels like I'm sinking further into some nightmarish trap. Enough, I whisper, as if pleading will make this scene disappear. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know you. I don't know any of this. But the clown doesn't move, only watches with that eerie, frozen grin as I stumble backward, fighting the urge to look away from those hollow eyes. I turn and bolt to my car, throwing myself into the driver's seat, slamming the door shut, and jamming the keys into the ignition. The engine sputters to life, a sound that brings a brief flood of relief. But as I press the gas pedal, I feel the car shudder, then jerk violently to a stop. I look down. My foot is on the pedal, the engine's still humming, but the car, it won't move. I slam the pedal harder, willing the car to go, but it's as if some invisible force has clamped down on the wheels, locking me in place. I twist in my seat, glancing out the window, my breath fogging up the glass. The clown hasn't moved, but its grin has stretched wider, its eyes sharper, almost gleeful. Leaving so soon, the clown's voice purrs, barely audible through the closed window. I reach for my phone, but my hand shakes so badly I fumble, dropping it between the seats. My heart pounds, a frantic rhythm that fills my ears. I know I need to get out of here, to get away, but I can't make sense of anything. How is this happening? Why can't I move? Desperation building, I try to open the car door, but it's jammed. I yank the handle again and again, until it finally swings open. I stumble out, almost tripping as I look back toward the road, hoping to see headlights, some sign of life. But the road is empty, swallowed up by an unnatural darkness that feels more oppressive than ever. I force myself to turn around and face the clown again, hoping that maybe I can reason with it, figure out what it wants. But the clown just stands there, that grin now twisted into something grotesque, unnatural. "Why are you doing this?" I demand, my voice trembling. "What do you want from me?" It tilts its head, almost as if it's considering the question. Then, in a voice that feels like ice seeping into my veins, it finally speaks. "You're not here by accident," it says. "You're here because we brought you here. You've been coming to this place for a long time, just never like this." "What are you talking about?" I ask, every nerve in my body screaming for me to run, but unable to move. "Oh, you still don't remember?" the clown whispers, taking a slow step toward me. "All those nights, coming to visit us, talking to us, calling us. You thought it was all just some harmless game, didn't you?" I shake my head, confused. "No, I don't know what you mean. I've never seen you before tonight." The clown chuckles, a sound so hollow and cold it makes my skin crawl. "Not tonight," it whispers, "but on all the other nights. You came to us, in your dreams. All those years, calling for us, drawing us closer and closer." Suddenly, fragments of memory flicker at the edges of my mind, nights waking up drenched in sweat, dreams of faces watching from the shadows, a whispering chorus that seemed so vivid, so real. Could it be, had I really been calling to them in my sleep, without realizing it? "You brought us here," the clown continues, its voice a twisted echo of a memory I can barely remember. "Each time you dreamed, each time you saw us, you drew us into your world." A wave of nausea hits me as I begin to realize the truth of its words. Those dreams that had plagued me since I was a child, the ones I'd always written off as nightmares, they weren't nightmares at all. They were something far worse. They were invitations. "You want us to come," the clown says, leaning in so close I can smell the rancid scent of decay. "And now we're here. But you never asked yourself the most important question." A chill runs down my spine, and I swallow, my voice barely a whisper. "What question?" The clown's face twists into an expression of almost childlike glee. "Why would we come just for you? Why would we answer your calls, night after night, if we didn't need something in return?" My mouth goes dry as I realize what it's saying. What do you want from me?" The clown's smile fades, replaced by something darker, more sinister. "Oh, that's the best part. You already gave it to us, long ago. Every time you called, every time you dreamed, you gave us a little more." It points a pale, bony finger at me, and I feel a sudden, overwhelming heaviness settle over my body. I struggle to breathe, to move, as it continues. "You see, this isn't the first time you've met us. It's just the first time you're awake." The revelation crashes down on me like a tidal wave. All this time, the dreams weren't just dreams, they were encounters, pieces of myself I'd been giving away without even realizing it. And now, there's nothing left to give. I stumble backward, gasping, feeling an invisible weight pulling me down into something dark and cold. "Wait!" I scream, desperation clawing at my throat. "Please, let me go!" The clown's grin widens as it watches my terror with delight. "Oh, we can't do that," it says softly. "You've already crossed the line. And now, you're ours." With a final, piercing gaze, the clown steps back, its form beginning to dissolve, merging into the shadows. But as it fades, the darkness around me begins to close in, an endless, suffocating void. Shadows creep toward me, tendrils reaching out like skeletal fingers, and I realize with mounting horror that I'm being pulled in, slipping further from reality with every heartbeat. I try to scream, to fight, but there's nothing to hold on to. I look back toward my car, hoping for some last glimpse of the world I once knew. But all I see is my own face staring back at me from the passenger seat, eyes wide with terror. The realization hits like a punch to the gut. That face, it's not mine, not anymore. It's a stranger, a shell of the person I once was, left behind as I'm pulled into the dark, into a place where time and identity don't exist. The last thing I hear is the faint sound of laughter echoing from somewhere far away as I'm swallowed whole. The hum of the car was almost hypnotic as we sped down the empty stretch of road, the dark trees on either side forming an endless tunnel of green and shadows. It was one of those impulsive road trips that felt like a great idea in theory, spontaneous, adventurous, but now that we'd been driving for hours, our energy was fading. We were in the middle of nowhere, and the only sign of civilization was a faintly flickering neon light from a lone gas station we passed miles back. Then, like a strange twist of fate, a faded sign appeared, half hidden behind some overgrown bushes along the roadside. Mystery Junction, Relics and Oddities, it read in big, peeling letters. The sign was worn, almost illegible, but there was something intriguing about it, a promise of the unexpected. That one sign was all it took to jolt everyone awake, stoking our curiosity. Should we check it out? Aaron asked, a mischievous glint in his eye. He was always the first to chase after anything weird or unusual, and I could tell he was already sold on the idea. It's probably just some old tourist trap, Sarah muttered, adjusting her glasses as she peered out the window. But even she sounded intrigued, her voice trailing off with a hint of curiosity. After a brief debate that felt more like an excuse to ignore the gnawing unease in our guts, we agreed to give it a look. Aaron swung the wheel, and we turned onto a narrow dirt path leading off the main road. A feeling of excitement bubbled up, mixed with an underlying sense of dread none of us could quite shake. The drive up the path felt endless, each bump and jolt rattling our nerves, but soon we saw it, a small, decaying building huddled at the end of the lane. Its walls were splintered wood, weathered and beaten by years of neglect, and the windows were streaked with grime. A rusted sign above the door read, Mystery Junction, Relics and Oddities, in faded, scrawling letters. "All right," I said, laughing nervously as I stepped out of the car. "This might be a mistake, but at least it'll make a great story." The air felt thick, stagnant, with a faint metallic scent that reminded me of wood iron. We hesitated at the entrance, looking at each other as if waiting for someone else to lead the way. When we finally stepped inside, we were greeted by an immediate, unsettling silence. It was as if we'd walked into a space sealed off from the world outside. No hum of passing cars, no birds chirping, just the thick, suffocating quiet. The dim light barely illuminated the room, casting long, distorted shadows over the bizarre collection of artifacts on display. Odd, mismatched items crowded the shelves, each one more peculiar than the last. There were faded sepia photographs of people with hollow eyes and eerie smiles, jars filled with murky liquids that held preserved animal parts, some unrecognizable, and a dusty typewriter with a half-typed sentence on the paper, as if someone had just stopped mid-thought and walked away. I shuddered, trying not to dwell on what any of it might mean. "This place is weird," whispered Emma, hugging herself as she moved cautiously along the nearest shelf. I could see her eyes darting nervously from object to object, like she was expecting something to jump out at her. A faint, sickly sweet smell permeated the room, and as I breathed it in, it reminded me of rotting flowers. I exchanged a glance with Aaron, who gave me a quick, nervous smile, though his face had lost some of its earlier enthusiasm. But even as our discomfort grew, so did our curiosity. Every new item we came across only made us want to explore further. An old carnival mask, half eaten away by mold, a cracked mirror with strange, unfamiliar symbols scratched into the glass, a doll missing one eye, its porcelain face frozen in a grin that seemed far too wide. Each item seemed to hold a sinister story of its own. Then we heard it, a low, almost inaudible hum coming from somewhere deeper inside the building. I froze, glancing around, but the others didn't seem to notice. They were still engrossed in examining the strange relics. I forced myself to shake off the chill crawling up my spine and continued looking around, but now, every creak and groan of the old building felt amplified, each sound prickling at my nerves. "Hey, check this out," Aaron called from the other side of the room. He was standing in front of a glass display case, staring down at what looked like an old journal. Its leather cover was cracked and peeling, and the edges of the pages were blackened, as if it had been through a fire. Curiosity got the better of me, and I walked over to join him. I leaned in to read the words on the open page, but they were smeared, barely legible. All I could make out were scattered words: beware, hidden, and once you enter. A cold shiver ran down my spine, but before I could say anything, a sharp clinking sound came from behind us, like glass hitting metal. We turned, and I caught sight of Sarah standing by a tall, narrow display case filled with small trinkets and jewelry. She had her hand over her mouth, staring down in horror at a pair of silver-rimmed glasses lying on the bottom shelf. "What's wrong?" I asked, moving closer to her. She pointed, her face pale. They look exactly like my dad's glasses. The ones he lost when..." Her voice trailed off, but we all knew what she was talking about. Sarah's dad had disappeared a few years ago, leaving behind only a mystery and endless questions. My heart pounded harder, but I forced myself to brush it off, telling myself it was just a creepy coincidence. Let's keep looking," I said, hoping to distract us from the uncomfortable silence that had settled over the room. We wandered into a narrow hallway at the back of the main room, the dim light casting long shadows against the walls. It felt wrong somehow, like stepping into a place we weren't supposed to see. The walls were lined with old, dusty photographs of people staring directly into the camera, their expressions vacant, almost lifeless. Their eyes seemed to follow us as we walked by, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. "Is it just me, or does it feel like this place is alive?" Emma whispered, her voice trembling slightly. I didn't answer, but I knew what she meant. It was as if the entire building was holding its breath, waiting for something. The strange buzzing sound had gotten louder, and now it almost felt like a heartbeat, pulsing steadily from somewhere just beyond our reach. Finally, we reached the end of the hallway and found ourselves in a small room filled with dusty old furniture and more bizarre artifacts. There was a large, ornate mirror hanging on the wall, its frame carved with strange symbols that looked familiar, but I couldn't quite place where I'd seen them before. My reflection in the glass seemed odd, somehow distorted, like I was looking at a version of myself from another time. As I stared, I thought I saw movement in the corner of the mirror, a flicker of shadow, just out of sight. I turned quickly, but the room was empty. My skin prickled with unease. "Maybe we should head back to the car," Emma said, her voice barely above a whisper. But Aaron shook his head, a strange gleam in his eyes. "Come on, don't you want to see what's in the basement?" He gestured to a narrow staircase at the back of the room that I hadn't noticed before. It led down into darkness, each step looking more rickety than the last. Micah told me to leave, to drag everyone back to the car and forget this place ever existed. But something about the way Aaron was staring at the staircase pulled me in. The others exchanged uncertain glances, but no one spoke up. One last look at the eerie, unsettling objects surrounding us, and we made our decision. Against every instinct screaming in my head, we agreed to stay just a little longer. We were too far in now, leaving felt as impossible as staying. With a final, uneasy glance at each other, we started down the stairs, one hesitant step at a time, our breaths shallow as the darkness swallowed us whole. The air grew colder as we descended the narrow staircase, each creak of the steps sounding louder than it should have, echoing in the unsettling silence. I held my breath, the oppressive darkness tightening around us. At the bottom, we found ourselves in a long, dimly lit corridor that stretched in both directions, disappearing into shadows. There were more displays here, each one stranger than the last. The cases held mannequins dressed in outdated clothing, posed in unsettling ways, hands raised as if warding something off, faces frozen in expressions of terror or pain. I shivered, trying to ignore the growing sense that these mannequins weren't just mannequins. The glass eyes, though dulled with age, seemed to follow us as we walked by. "What kind of place is this?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely audible, as if afraid the mannequins might hear. I couldn't answer. None of us could. Something about this corridor felt wrong. Each step forward made the feeling of dread thicken, like we were wading deeper into something we shouldn't be touching. We came across an antique mirror hanging on the wall, its surface warped and spotted with age. The frame was ornate, covered in twisted figures and strange symbols that reminded me of the carvings on the mirror in the room upstairs. As I stared at it, my reflection seemed to ripple, like the glass was made of water. For a brief, unsettling moment, my face in the mirror wasn't my own. The features were twisted, eyes hollow, mouth stretched into an unnatural grin. I stumbled back, my heart racing. Did you guys see that? But when they looked at the mirror, it only reflected their faces, distorted slightly by the old glass, but otherwise normal. I rubbed my eyes, trying to shake off the lingering vision. Maybe it was just my imagination, or the dim light playing tricks. We continued deeper into the corridor, which seemed to twist and turn in odd, nonsensical ways. The walls felt closer, pressing in around us, and every so often I thought I could hear faint whispers, too soft to understand, but persistent. The hallways branched off unexpectedly, and I quickly lost any sense of direction. At one point, we came across a small table with a guest book resting on it, the pages yellowed with age and covered in dusty handwriting. The names went back decades, some of them scribbled hastily, others carefully printed as if by someone with too much time on their hands. But as I skimmed down the list, my eyes caught on a few chilling messages scrawled in the margins. Can't find the exit. Please help us. Don't go into the mirrors. Each note was more disturbing than the last, and the further I read, the shakier my hands felt. Emma leaned over my shoulder, her face pale. Is this some kind of sick joke? I didn't answer. My throat felt too tight, my mouth dry. But the nagging feeling that something was terribly wrong had sunk its claws in me, refusing to let go. Let's just get out of here, I muttered, glancing back at the way we'd come. But as I turned, my stomach dropped. There was no staircase, no sign of the path we'd taken. The corridor stretched behind us, unbroken, leading only to more shadowed corners and dusty exhibits. Wait, wasn't the stairs right there? Aaron said, his voice tense, barely a notch above a whisper. He scanned the hallway, eyes wide. We just came down them. They can't have disappeared. We doubled back, retracing our steps, but every turn only led us deeper. The hallways seemed to shift around us, changing every time we looked away, as if the building itself was playing a cruel game. Soon, I lost track of how long we'd been wandering. Every corner, every corridor felt like it was closing in, the mannequins in each new display more twisted and grotesque. One mannequin was posed with its hand on its chest, head tilted to the side with an expression of sorrow frozen on its face. The plaque beneath it read, "Forever Waiting." Another was twisted backward, its mouth open in a silent scream, labeled, "Never Escaped." I felt sick, my mind racing with thoughts I couldn't quite grasp but felt on the edge of understanding. "What's wrong with this place?" Sarah whispered, clutching her arms around herself. Then we found another mirror, but this one was different. It was cracked, the fracture running diagonally across the glass, making our reflections appear broken. The lighting flickered, casting odd shadows that made it look like our reflections were moving independently. As I stared into the mirror, I thought I saw another figure standing just behind us, watching with dark, empty eyes. I turned sharply, but no one was there. Only the echo of our ragged breaths filled the air, and I saw the same haunted expression mirrored on everyone's faces. We were all beginning to feel it, the creeping certainty that we weren't alone. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. They seemed to come from all directions, as if the walls themselves were speaking. I strained to make out the words, but they slipped away each time, as if they were deliberately avoiding comprehension. "We need to leave," I said, my voice shaking. "Let's find an exit and get out of here." We hurried down another corridor, turning corner after corner, the displays blurring together into a maddening, endless array of haunting images. Just as I felt hope slipping, we saw it, a door at the end of the hallway with a worn exit sign above it. Relief washed over me, and I broke into a run, pulling the others along with me. But when I pushed the door open, my relief vanished, replaced by a fresh wave of terror. Instead of the outside world, we found ourselves back in the main room where we'd started, staring at the same eerie exhibits we'd seen upon first entering. No, this can't be happening," Emma murmured, backing away, her eyes wide with fear. "We just came from here. How are we back here?" I felt a rush of nausea, my vision blurring slightly as the weight of our situation settled over me. Every exit, every turn seemed to loop back in on itself, leading us deeper into the maze. "Okay, there has to be a way out," Aaron said, trying to sound confident, though his voice was shaking. He grabbed my arm, pulling me toward another hallway. "Let's just keep moving. If we keep trying, we'll find something." But with every step, the dread grew thicker, an invisible weight pressing down on us. I began to notice other unsettling details that I hadn't registered before. There were strange scratches on the walls, like claw marks, and dark, rusty stains that could have been blood. And everywhere we looked, those mannequins stared back at us with their hollow eyes, frozen in poses that looked increasingly desperate. Then, in a particularly narrow hallway, I noticed something scrawled on the wall in faded red. The words were jagged, as if written by someone in a hurry or a state of panic. "You will never leave." I felt a chill crawl down my spine, my heart hammering as I glanced at the others. Their faces mirrored my fear, eyes wide and breaths shallow. "We have to keep going," Sarah said, though I could tell she was on the verge of tears. "If we stop, if we let it get to us, we're done for." But it was getting harder to believe her. Each step felt heavier, the walls closer, and soon I began to feel as though we were being herded, pushed forward by some unseen force. At one point, Emma stumbled, her hand brushing against a mannequin's arm. She jerked away, yelping as if it had burned her, and for a moment, we all froze. The mannequin's head had shifted, turning ever so slightly to face her, its glass eyes wide with a strange, unnatural glint. I could have sworn I saw a faint smile form on its face, like it was taunting us. What's happening?" Emma whimpered, backing away. We kept moving, though now every creak of the floor, every whisper of the air felt charged with malice. It was as if the building itself was alive, shifting and changing to trap us. Finally, we spotted another door, this one unlabeled but giving off a faint, chilling draft. With no other options, we hurried toward it, desperation outweighing caution. I reached for the handle, pulling it open, hoping, praying it would lead us outside. But as the door swung open, my heart sank. Instead of freedom, we found ourselves in a room filled with mirrors, each one reflecting a twisted version of ourselves. The reflections were distorted, faces gaunt and eyes dark, like we'd been wandering this place for years. One by one, we filed into the room, staring at our reflections, paralyzed by fear. Then I noticed something horrifying. Our reflections didn't move with us. They were staring back at us, expressions slowly shifting into twisted smiles, mouths widening unnaturally. "We need to get out of here," I choked out, stumbling backward. Aaron yanked on the door we'd just come through, but it wouldn't budge. I tried the walls, feeling along for any sign of an opening, but there was nothing. We were trapped. Each reflection began to raise a hand, reaching out toward the glass as if trying to break through. The walls seemed to close in, the air thick with dread. It was then that I realized, with a sinking feeling, that this place had no intention of letting us go. We were out of options. No more doors, no more hallways, no more windows. The entire place had swallowed us whole, trapping us in its twisted embrace. I could feel the panic rising in my chest as the walls seemed to close in around us, the air growing thick with an oppressive weight. "How is this even possible?" Emma's voice cracked. She was pacing now, her hands trembling as she tugged at her hair. "We've been through every door, every window, and it's the same damn room every time. We're not going anywhere. This place, it wants us here." I know, I muttered, wiping the sweat from my forehead. The room around us felt like it was getting smaller. The mirrors, those cursed mirrors, seemed to bend and distort, their edges creeping closer as if they too wanted to trap us. I turned away from them, unable to face my own twisted reflection any longer. "I can't take this anymore," Aaron said, his voice hoarse. He was pacing in the opposite direction, his eyes wild with fear. "There has to be a way out. There has to." He slammed his fist against the wall in frustration. The sound reverberated, too loud in the suffocating silence, and I froze, listening. A faint echo came from behind the wall, a distant, hollow sound. It wasn't just a reverberation from the impact. It was something else. Something alive. "Did you hear that?" Sarah whispered, her voice barely a breath. I nodded, fear twisting my stomach. The walls, I realized, weren't as solid as they seemed. There was something behind them. Something waiting. In the far corner of the room, we spotted another door, this one old, with a tarnished brass handle that looked like it hadn't been touched in decades. Desperation clawed at us as we rushed toward it. It swung open with a creak, revealing another corridor, one that seemed even darker than the last. At first, we thought it was a way out, but then we noticed the thick layers of dust on the floor. No one had walked this path in a long time. We stepped inside, but as we moved, the whispers started again, low, guttural, almost unintelligible. They were everywhere, slipping between the walls, twisting the air. It was like the very structure of the place was alive, pulsing with a rhythm that was both familiar and alien. I could feel something in the air, something older, something darker, pressing in around us. And then, we found it. A small chamber hidden behind a false wall. A ritual circle was painted on the floor in blood-red strokes. Symbols I didn't recognize were scrawled in the dust around it, and in the center, a stone altar stood, weathered and cracked, its surface stained with the remnants of something I didn't want to think about. "That's not possible," Aaron said, backing away from the altar. His voice trembled as he spoke, like the very air in the room was draining his strength. It's like something out of a nightmare." I felt it then. A cold rush that swept through me, as if the building itself had exhaled, and with it, a presence that wasn't just a thing, it was a force. It had been here long before us, and it would remain long after we were gone. "The mirrors," Sarah gasped, her voice shaking. She pointed toward one of the walls where a cracked mirror stood, its glass reflecting nothing but shadow. "The mirrors, they're the key." The room fell into silence as we all turned to look at it. My heart skipped a beat as the glass began to shift, rippling like water, distorting the reflection of the ritual circle. And then, I saw it, asterisk as asterisk, not as we were, but as we might become. Our faces were gaunt, our eyes hollow. Our bodies were twisted, deformed as if the building itself had already consumed us. "What the hell is happening?" Emma cried, her hands pressed against her ears, as if trying to block out the whispers. "It's not just a place," I muttered, my voice hoarse. "It's a trap. It's been feeding on us, drawing us in. We were meant to be here all along." I stepped closer to the mirror, and that's when I saw it, written on the edge of the glass, barely visible, was a message. Not in any language I recognized, but the meaning was clear. "The ritual is complete. They will stay." I staggered back, my breath coming in short gasps. "No, no, no," I whispered to myself, trying to shake the image from my mind. But it was too late. The room began to shift again. The walls pulsated, the floor groaning beneath our feet. We were no longer standing in a room, we were standing inside something. The building itself had become part of us, part of our thoughts, and it was pulling us in, wrapping us tighter in its grip. "We need to leave. We need to get out of here now," I shouted, turning and trying to pull open the door we had just entered, but it was locked. We tried everything. We threw ourselves against the windows, but the glass wouldn't break. We searched for any hidden passages, any secret exit that might lead us to freedom, but each door, each window, led us back to the center of the building. No matter how far we ran, we could never get closer to the outside world. It felt like the building itself was growing around us, sealing us in. Suddenly, I felt a cold hand on my shoulder. I whipped around, but no one was there. My heart raced, my body trembling as I turned back toward the group. "We're not leaving," Emma whispered, her face pale, her eyes wide. "We're never leaving." I heard it then, a voice, faint and distant, but unmistakable. It was coming from the walls, from the mirrors. "You're part of us now. Forever." The last thing I saw before everything went black was the reflection of myself in the mirror, smiling back at me, not a twisted grin, but a calm, knowing smile. And then, the reflection stepped forward, out of the glass, and into the room. I gasped, my legs giving way beneath me, as the door slammed shut behind us. And that was when I understood. This place wasn't just designed to trap us, it was designed to become us. The last thing I heard, before the world faded to darkness, was the sound of footsteps, countless footsteps, echoing from the mirrors. We would never leave. and the attraction would never let us go. It's just past midnight, and the world outside my car is still, suffocatingly still. The headlights pierce the darkness ahead of me, illuminating the faint, winding stretch of road that seems to stretch forever. I'm alone, far from any town, and the only sound is the hum of my tires on asphalt and the occasional whisper of wind brushing against the trees lining the sides of the highway. The air feels thick with silence, like the world is holding its breath. I can't help but feel a little uneasy, though. I've been on this road for hours now, driving aimlessly, caught up in my own thoughts. The empty road ahead feels too quiet, like a ghost town with no ghosts. There's no other car in sight, no headlights in the distance, just the occasional flicker of trees and the occasional sign for an exit that I don't take. I'm trying to clear my head, get some peace. Maybe I'll find a place to stop soon, if only for a few minutes. I adjust the rearview mirror, staring at the reflection of the dark highway behind me. Nothing unusual. Just the familiar stretch of road fading into darkness, but that's it. Just me. For a brief moment, I'm lost in thought again, the rhythm of my car's engine like a lullaby. And then, I notice it. A set of headlights. A car. At first, I don't think much of it. There's always someone else on the road, right? Especially at this hour. The soft glow of the headlights behind me doesn't seem aggressive, just a distant, steady presence. I'm still a little too far from civilization, too isolated for it to feel perfectly comfortable, but I convince myself that I'm overthinking it. It's just a coincidence. I turn my attention back to the road in front of me. I don't need to look at the mirror again. I can tell myself it's nothing. But then, I glance at the rearview mirror again. I don't know why. I guess it's just instinct, and the car is still there, still following. I tell myself it's fine. There's no reason to be nervous. Maybe it's just another traveler on the same lonely stretch of road. The headlights shine with that same soft glow, maintaining the same distance between us. I continue driving, my thoughts returning to the radio static. It's quieter now. I reach over, adjusting the dial, but there's only more static. I sigh, focusing back on the road, but I can't shake the sense of being watched. So I check the mirror again. I don't know why, but it's like a compulsion now. That same car. It's still behind me. It hasn't changed position. I tell myself there's a logical explanation. Maybe it's just a trucker on his night shift, or someone headed to a nearby town. Nothing to worry about. It could just be a coincidence, right? But I can't stop checking the mirror. Again, the car is still there. Same distance. No sign of slowing down or speeding up. I try to push it out of my mind. I'm tired. That's all. It's the isolation, the lack of sleep, it's making me paranoid. The road ahead is dark and endless, but it's familiar. And yet, this feeling that someone's behind me, that someone's watching, is growing stronger. It's starting to feel intentional. I remind myself again that there's a perfectly reasonable explanation. But then, as the minutes drag on, I feel it, an unease creeping up my spine, crawling through my veins. It's like a knot in my chest, a tightening that I can't shake. I check the mirror again. And there it is, that same set of headlights. Now, I'm starting to feel it. The anxiety. The breathless, tight feeling in my chest. Maybe it's nothing, but maybe it's not. I adjust my grip on the steering wheel. Should I pull over? No, that seems like overreacting. Maybe it's just someone going the same way. It's a long stretch of road, but it doesn't make sense. We're alone out here, and the car is still there. I take a breath, trying to steady myself. It's nothing, right? But something feels off. I've been on this road for hours, and every time I glance into the rearview mirror, the car is there. The same distance. Always. Not speeding up, not slowing down. I keep convincing myself it's a coincidence. Maybe it's just a trucker or another traveler. Maybe they're just heading to the same place, and we're both stuck in this endless stretch of highway. But then, I see it, just a flicker. The headlights are brighter for a second. Are they getting closer? My heart skips a beat. No, I tell myself. This is just fatigue playing tricks on me. I've been driving for too long. It's nothing. I try to distract myself. The radio is still nothing but static. I roll down the window, hoping for the cool rush of air to clear my mind. The wind hits me, ruffling my hair, but the oppressive sense of being followed doesn't lift. I glance at the mirror again. Same headlights. Same distance. No change. No reason to feel anything, right? I tell myself to stop being ridiculous. But I can't help it. There's a nagging sensation growing in the pit of my stomach. The stillness of the road, the quiet of the night, it's all starting to feel suffocating. There's something wrong with this car. I'm not sure what it is, but the way it maintains the exact distance behind me, never moving, never changing, it's too deliberate. Too controlled. I grip the steering wheel harder now. My palms are sweating. I glance at the rearview mirror again, half expecting the car to be gone. But it's still there. The headlights seem closer now. Too close. I swallow hard. Maybe it's just my imagination, but I don't think so. Something's not right. Something is wrong. The knot in my chest tightens with every glance I steal at the rearview mirror. The headlights are still there. They never leave. They never change. They're always perfectly in line with my car, at the same distance, like a shadow that refuses to let me go. My heart races. It's not just paranoia anymore. This doesn't feel like a coincidence. I have to do something. I'm not sure what I'm hoping for. Maybe I'll prove to myself that it's nothing. That I'm just overreacting. Or maybe I'll finally see what's been lurking behind me for the last hour. I grip the steering wheel tighter, the palms of my hands slick with sweat. My fingers twitch. I can feel my pulse in my throat, a rapid beat that drowns out the hum of the engine. I've been on this road for far too long, and this is it, the moment I do something about it. I need to test the car behind me. Without really thinking, I signal and move into the left lane, my tires humming as I veer off slightly. I glance in the mirror. The car behind me follows. No hesitation. It just moves into the left lane too, maintaining that same distance. Not 1 inch closer, not 1 inch farther. It's as if it's anticipating my every move. I try again. This time, I slow down, deliberately easing off the gas. I watch the headlights shrink in size as my car loses speed. For a second, I think it might work. But then, slowly, the headlights grow larger again, keeping that same steady distance between us. It's not speeding up, but it's matching me perfectly. It's like a game of cat and mouse, except there's no mouse, no escape. I grip the wheel, my breath coming faster now. This isn't right. I shouldn't be driving like this. Maybe I should stop, pull over, and call someone. But no, I won't stop. Not until I figure out what's happening. I turn the wheel, taking an exit off the highway with no real destination in mind. A small rural road stretches ahead, dark and empty. It's a spur-of-the-moment decision, but I'm desperate for some kind of response. I need to know if this car is really following me or if I'm losing my mind. I check the mirror as I exit the highway. And sure enough, the car is still there, sliding into the exit behind me with perfect timing. It doesn't break its rhythm. It doesn't even falter for a second. I take another turn, a sharp right into a dead-end street. The street is narrow, lined with abandoned houses that seem to stare at me in silence. I drive down it slowly, almost crawling. I look at the rearview mirror, half expecting to see the car behind me turn off or leave. But no! The headlights are still there, unwavering. I'm sweating now, a cold, slick sweat that makes my skin crawl. I take a sharp breath, trying to steady myself, but it's getting harder to breathe. I don't know how long I've been driving like this, but I feel like I'm running out of options. There's no one else out here. No cars passing, no other signs of life. Just the dark, lonely road and the car following me like a shadow that refuses to disappear. I make a sharp right onto a gravel road, my tires kicking up rocks, but again, the car behind me mirrors my every move. I slow down. The headlights stay the same. I speed up. They match my pace. It's like I'm being controlled by an unseen hand. No matter what I do, it does the same. A sick feeling settles deep in my stomach. My palms are clammy now, my heart pounding in my ears. My breath is shallow, and I can feel my chest tightening. The air inside the car feels thin, like it's getting harder to breathe, like the walls are closing in on me. I make a desperate decision. I'll stop. I'll pull over, get out of the car, and face this thing head on. Maybe then I'll understand. Maybe it'll be some simple explanation, something I can laugh about later. I slam the brakes, the tires screeching against the road as I pull over to the side, just off the gravel path. The car behind me doesn't stop. It doesn't even slow down. It slides past me, its headlights glowing brighter for a brief moment, as if it's looking right at me. I hold my breath, staring at the car, waiting for it to turn away, to speed past me and leave me alone. But it doesn't. I watch in horror as the car comes to a stop just ahead of me. It's not moving anymore, and for the first time since I've seen it, I feel like I'm looking at it, not just through the mirror, but head on. I'm not sure why, but I can't bring myself to look away. And then, I see it. The figure behind the wheel. Or rather, the lack of a figure. There's nothing. No face. Nothing that even remotely resembles a person sitting there. Just an empty space where a face should be. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just a smooth, featureless void in the place where a human being should be. A chill runs down my spine, one so cold it feels like ice has taken root in my bones. I blink hard, hoping that what I'm seeing is just some trick of the light. Maybe I'm delirious from the isolation. Maybe I'm just too tired. But no! It's still there. The empty, faceless driver. I can't breathe. I can't think. My mind is racing, 1,000 thoughts running through my head, none of them making sense. What is this? What is happening? I can't rationalize it. I can't explain it. The silence is suffocating. The car ahead of me remains perfectly still, like some kind of dark, inhuman statue. I can't bring myself to move. I can't look away. I think about getting out of my car, confronting the thing, but my body won't move. My hands are frozen on the wheel. My chest is tight, my vision blurring, as though something is pushing me to stay here, trapped in this moment, unable to escape. I think about driving away, speeding off and leaving it behind. But something tells me I won't outrun it. That if I try, it will follow. I can't get away from this. From them. My thoughts race, and I wonder if I should just keep driving, find a safe place to stop, somewhere with people. But that's not possible, is it? There's no one out here. No one but me and the faceless driver. Alone, isolated. I can feel the dread seeping into my bones, flooding my veins with cold, paralyzing fear. I can't breathe. I can't think. All I can do is stare at the impossibility before me, waiting for something to happen. Something I don't understand. Something I'm too afraid to face. And then, the headlights flicker. Just once. And then, without a sound, the car slowly begins to move forward again, turning its headlights off in the distance. I sit there, frozen, waiting, watching, and I don't know what to do anymore. The car in front of me, that terrifying, faceless driver, starts moving again. Slowly, methodically. I don't know if it's my fear or something else, but it feels like the air is thickening around me, as if the whole world is holding its breath. I can't breathe. I can't think. But I know one thing for sure, I can't stay here. I can't let this continue. I force myself to shift into drive. My hands shake on the wheel as I slam my foot onto the gas pedal. The engine roars to life, and I jerk the wheel hard, turning my car sharply, aiming to cut off the faceless driver, to confront this nightmare head on. But as I do, my heart nearly stops. The faceless car, it's gone. Vanished. There's no sign of it in the rearview mirror. No headlights glaring at me. No shadow following me. The road is empty. Just me. My pulse races, the adrenaline coursing through my veins. My mind scrambles for a reason, any reason, for what just happened. I look around wildly, trying to process what's going on, but the road ahead is dark, and the air feels suffocating. A thick fog has started to roll in, swirling around my headlights like a ghostly veil, making everything feel unreal. My hands are still gripping the wheel like a vice, my knuckles white with the force of it. I blink, trying to clear the blurriness in my eyes, but it only gets worse. I don't understand. I don't understand any of this. I pull over again, heart hammering in my chest, and turn off the engine, letting the silence wash over me. The fog swirls around my car like something alive, its tendrils creeping closer, closing in. It's almost like the fog is part of the nightmare. My mind races. Should I get out? Should I leave the car behind and run? But run where? There's nothing out here. There's nowhere to go. I'm trapped in this endless road, this endless cycle. I sit there for what feels like an eternity, just staring into the fog, hoping for some kind of answer. I don't know how long it's been since I last saw the faceless car, but the dread in my chest won't go away. It's a deep, gnawing feeling, the kind that claws at you from the inside. Then I hear it. A voice. But not from outside the car. It's in my head. Asterisk, you didn't see me before, did you? Asterisk. I freeze. The voice is low, almost a whisper, but it cuts through the fog in my mind like a blade. I don't know if it's real or if I'm losing my grip on reality. But the words are undeniable. I didn't see it. I didn't see it before. I try to push the thought away, but it lingers. The words hang in the air, refusing to be ignored. Suddenly, my breath catches in my throat as a realization hits me with the force of a freight train. I never saw the driver's face because I was never supposed to. I was never meant to see the face because it wasn't about the driver. The faceless figure wasn't a person at all. Not in the way I thought. I feel my skin crawl as the truth unfolds. The faceless car was never trying to harm me. It wasn't trying to get closer. It wasn't trying to chase me. It was mirroring me. The faceless figure, that shadow in the rearview mirror, wasn't the thing I was running from, it was me. It was my reflection. It was the part of myself that I had been fleeing all this time, the part of me that I'd been too afraid to face. My heart stutters in my chest as the fog clears for a brief moment. And there it is, a sign, just up ahead. An exit, one I hadn't seen before. It's not a real exit. It's a gateway. The road's end. My destination. I realize, with shocking clarity, that I've been on this road for much longer than I thought. This road, this endless stretch of highway, has been a reflection of my mind, a manifestation of my fear, my isolation, my refusal to face the things I've been running from. I had been running from myself. I had been running from the person I'd become. And now, the faceless figure, my reflection, is finally here. It's been here all along. It was never a pursuit. It was a mirror, showing me what I've become. You're not getting away, the voice says again, softer now. Asterisk, you can't outrun yourself. Asterisk. Terror floods me, but it's not the same terror I felt earlier. It's deeper. A bone-deep realization that everything, every decision I've made, has led me here. And in that moment, I understand that I'm not being chased, I'm being shown the truth. I don't need to escape. I don't need to confront the faceless driver. I need to face what it represents. I need to face myself. The road before me stretches out into infinity, but this time, it doesn't feel like a trap. It doesn't feel like a nightmare. It feels like the beginning of something new, something surreal, but ultimately freeing. As I drive forward, the fog fades, and the dark road ahead seems to open up, as if the path has been waiting for me all this time. The faceless driver no longer follows, they become me, and I have become them. The fear melts away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of acceptance. The road, the fog, the figure, they were never meant to trap me. They were meant to guide me, to force me to face the parts of myself I had ignored. And in that moment, I realized the most terrifying truth of all. I've been following myself this entire time. The fog lifts completely, and I drive into the unknown, no longer afraid of the dark road ahead. No longer afraid of the face in the mirror. And then, just as the first light of dawn breaks across the horizon, I understand, I have no idea where I'm going. But for the first time, I don't care.